Today I finally have the opportunity to be in front of my 3 routers in my home office that I've been kicking the tires on for a few weeks now. I've had numerous obstacles, some internet issues and others, but tonight everything's wired and ready to go. What you'll see at the top here is a gigabit connection, and I'm recording a remote desktop of a laptop that's right next to the routers. So the gigabit connection is not routable to the internet. That's why it says no internet connection. Well, how would you know that? I'll show you. So if we do an IP config all, we get this. Here's the name of the laptop. Here's the connection on my Wi-Fi network, disconnected. So you'll see that. That's why it has no IP. Next, we got the private gigabit. You'll see there's no DNS, no gateway. So yeah, that's just so that that machine can get to my laptop that's recording the video. Okay. Next, we have these USB 3.0 to gigabit adapters. What does that do? Well, that isolates or makes DHCP on the routers feed out each of these interfaces separately without getting in the way of each other. Does that make sense? So they don't stumble on one another that way, and the DHCP leases and the gateways and all that were DHCP fed. Now what I did was I took each router and gave them a unique subnet. So 192.168.1.1 on this one, the ASUS, left it alone, a factory default. This one I did tweak from factory default. I moved it to 192.168.2. something network, and then .3. something. So IPs .11.22.33. So there we go. We've got 3 different networks, nobody conflicting with one another, and we are ready to roll. And it makes the video obvious to see which system or which device you're looking at. And I'm going to show some comparisons between them on making changes and how it bumps the internet when you make those changes. So let me get into that now. You've seen how it's wired. You know we've got all the devices hooked up. And what we're going to do is start with showing you ping. Okay, so now we've got ping going to all the routers. And then here, we're pinging Google. So public website, right? All right, 48. Now, let's let those cruise along. What's the point? Now, the point is you'll be convinced you know what you're looking at as I do these tests of the 3 routers through their web user interface. I'm going to make some changes, and you're going to see internet get interrupted on these devices. Okay? You'll also get familiar with the web user interfaces of the 3 routers as we go through this video. Okay, so let's get started. We've got the routers left, middle, and right. So the left is ASUS, middle Netgear, right is Linksys. So we want to disable all but the router that we're using. Let me also point out from IP config all, you'll notice a gateway and DNS is hard-coded on each of these 3 network interfaces. So you only really want one path to the internet at a time, right? And now you'll see internet access only shows on one of my network devices. Over here, this went from a warning to online, and it shows ASUS as giving us the internet access right now. So if we were to start a new browser window, you should be convinced everything's fine because the real internet comes right up. Okay. Just before recording the video, just to establish a baseline that things were healthy, that networking was good, I went ahead and ran speed tests. So you'll see the ASUS came out at these numbers, Netgear these numbers, Linksys these numbers. All 3 of these routers are attached to a network switch that goes up to my own home network, DHCP feeding the WAN interfaces of all 3 of these routers. What does that mean? It means I'm double natted, or an older Cisco Linksys E4200 is feeding the network or the internet to all these devices in the home. So this video is not a comparative speed test, although you can get some idea of good speed in my house and consistent performance tonight. It's really about the web user interface. So finally, after all that pre-roll explaining what I'm doing, let's go ahead and do it. So when I launch Chrome, you'll see 3 tabs. Only the ASUS is going to log in. The other 2 are trying to log in the other interfaces that are down. Okay, does that make sense? I hope it does. So ASUS on the left, Netgear in the middle, Linksys on the right. So our first test is with the ASUS. Now, Let's resize this window a bit. So as we perform disruptive actions, we can actually see ping loss and the effects of those disruptive actions at the bottom. Okay? We'll leave it so we can see several pings lost. All right. It's going to be a little awkward not fitting everything on the screen. So the ASUS has a particularly tall user interface. Even when maximized, you can't quite see everything without scrolling. So that seems like kind of a strange design choice, and that's what I'm getting on Chrome at 100%. So we'll deal with it. Okay, so when we first log in, this is what we see. It's telling us the primary WAN is connected. And I am not claiming to be an expert on the user interfaces. Frankly, I barely had time with them. So you're going to see me stumble a bit as we walk through the UI together. But I do know that I was able to test some changes like DHCP reservations or port forwarding. So I did rehearse just a little bit like 3 weeks ago. Okay, so let's just walk through and show the features. Enable dual WAN. If I wanted to have a second WAN connection, that would help. Let's see what this Go button does. It brings up the internet connection WAN side of things, where you can specify MAC addresses or clone them. Interesting. How often do you want to ask for DHCP from the server, from your internet provider? Okay, all sorts of settings in there. Probably best if I just start at, say, network map. Now, the initial configuration of factory defaults does vary in these devices a little. If I were to reset these to factory defaults right now, that will mess up the video a little bit. So I'm going to stick with where we're at. And we'll move right along. So specifically, I mentioned we'll work our way from top to bottom just to show the web user interface options on this device. Here's our networks. Scroll down a little, not missing anything important at the bottom, apparently. How about this traffic manager? Okay, QoS. If we turn it on, we're going to set our our TCP/IP speeds. And there's a frequently asked questions article to read all about that. That's cool. Okay, let's leave that off for now. How about traffic monitor? Let's see what's in there. Oh yeah, I promised to leave it so you can see on the bottom if we lose IP connectivity. So the leftmost device is the one we're working on right now, and the right one is Ping and Google, so we're obviously online. You've got this nifty little chart showing in real time internet utilization. And then you can split it out to looking at just the wired connection versus wireless connection. Versus wireless 5 gigahertz. So that's pretty cool. Actually, I've got my phone right in front of me, so let me just go ahead and connect something there. And you should see the histogram light up. Now I'm going to connect to the 5 gigahertz, which is the page we're on. And it finished. Now we'll do a little speed test. So this is kind of cool, kind of like a task manager for your router. Nice feature. Looks like my clock is not NTP time synced. It's 9:40 p.m. and it's saying 9:35. Okay, so I am hitting the ASUS 5 gigahertz channel right now, and we're not seeing the real-time results quite yet. But we are seeing something going on with numbers. Let's see what happens. Oh, I made a mistake. I connected to the other frequency. Okay. So you can see download and then upload happening. That's what speed test would look like. Okay, let's move along to parental controls. USB application. There's a whole lot in there. Again, my primary concern for my router is performance, reliability, stability. That's what I mean by reliability, not going down in the middle of the family using the internet. So I'm going to move right through some of these kind of fast. AI cloud, so if we want to get a cloud access to this thing, this is where you set all that up. Let's move along to wireless. Change the frequency. It chips with that WPS on. Bridge mode. MAC filtering if you want. Radius settings. Professional tab. What is that? Default. So it's warning you, be careful in here. Better know what you're doing kind of thing. So yeah, there's a whole lot of tweakability on this device. This, I did all the different factory defaults, as you saw. Well, on this one, I left it alone, actually, 192, 160.1.1. The other ones, I had to go to 2.1 and 3.1, just to keep things simple and make the video more apparent. Who's on which. There's DHCP range. So let's do a DHCP range test. We're going to start with that. After I finish showing off the UI, we'll do a DHCP range test, and then we'll go ahead and see if it bumps the internet. Okay, here's the WAN tab. Oh, let me go back. Sorry, I want to show you all screens and all features. Okay, I think I showed that earlier actually. Dual WAN and failover or load balance, pretty cool. It's like a cradle point router right there, right? WAN port trigger, port triggering, or just routine port forwarding. Turn that on. Add a device. I did notice you're not able to disable these with a checkbox or re-enable them. You pretty much have to nuke them and add them again. That's one thing where I felt the Linksys was stronger. You could leave a big complicated table and turn things on and off at will. Okay, DDNS on the ASUS. Sorry, DMZ. Next is DDNS. And now pass-through, all shipped on by default. IPv6, disabled by default. VPN server, which is very interesting to try to get to your home network from remotely. If you're going to trust the security of PPTP, that would be your way to go. How about firewall? Denial of service protection, interesting. Filter, filter, and filter. Okay, administration tab. Here's where we change the modes of the device. How about system? So we change the password to get in. Right now it's at factory default. Okay, it's set to Atlantic time for some reason. And pool.ntp.org might not be working. Firmware upgrade. Go ahead and do a check, see if there's a newer one. Since I last checked this 3 weeks ago. Nope. And the ability to save off the router config and import it back in again. System log, very Linuxy, command line, kind of like having SSH. You can see the last time I booted was a day ago. Pretty cool. Clear, and you can even save off that file. Okay, let's go to the wireless log. Lots of details there as well. DHCP leases. Very nice. You can see my iPhone connected that you saw me connect earlier. I'm going to just keep recording this video in real time. I might speed up some sections if needed, any lulls, but I'm not going to do any edits. Okay, routing table. Pretty cool. Port forwarding. So yeah, this is kind of helping you with Linux commands and not knowing Linux. And finally, network tools at the bottom. So we could do a ping. For 5 times, and it'll issue that command for us from the router side. Interesting that we got a different IP. That's expected, but bouncing. All right, how about netstat? Yeah, it's pretty cool. And then finally, wake on LAN. That's pretty neat. I can send to a particular MAC address and try to wake it up. Maybe handy if you're not home or you don't have something like log me in. All right, so I'm liking what I see now. It's time to do what I said we wanted to do, and that is some testing of interruptions in service. So this is not the most amazing test in the world, but what if you want to change your DHCP pool in your house, and you want to see what that does to the family? So I clicked apply and immediately just started doing it, and I'm watching ping on the bottom left of my screen, see if it's interrupted. And it is. Kind of strange that these devices showed changes. Network adapters are not even using. So the interruption was fairly brief, but we did lose ping, right? How long did Google go down? It missed 5-6 seconds. So if you're watching Netflix or something, yeah, buffering, it could be pretty disruptive to the, say, family room TV watching Netflix. All right, but it worked. Okay, that's it for the Netgear. Let's move along to our next device. So we'll disable the ASUS and we'll enable the Netgear. We'll wait for this exclamation to go away in the tray. Then we'll know we're in the clear to connect to the Netgear. Let's log right in. You'll notice ping started responding here in the Netgear as soon as I reconnected it. Getting a challenge. Admin. We're in. Very different interface, very squat. No trouble running it at this 1920 by 1080 resolution that I'm recording. No trouble at all. Okay, well, it's fresh in our mind. I do want to do that DHCP range test. I'm struggling with what's the best technique. Let's just go through the basic menu first. So you want to stay basic? In your user interface, this is what you get to see. Okay, that's something you need to sign up for. Spawns an external URL. Looks like I've almost got rid of the scroll bar if I go slightly taller. Let me do that. Yep. No, guess not. Scroll bar. Okay, we're not missing anything now. Okay. There's no scroll up. No, there's still scroll up. I don't know why it does that. I'm missing a few pixels. Let's move on to Ready Share. What's that about? Okay, sharing devices, and finally a guest network settings screen. Okay, advanced. That's probably what most folks watching this video would be. Let's look at that. All right, this shows our channels, shows our details of our device. What happens if we click on the wireless channel? There, you can see the frequency, which in my house I set to channel 157 and channel 1 to stay out of the way of my microwave oven on the 2.4 over here, and to stay out of the headset I'm recording on, a DECT DECT 6 Jabra headset. Had to go with 157. The other channels seriously had troubles. My phone auto lifter go up. So anyhow, I have my reasons for picking those frequencies. I did that on all my router tests. That's important to get consistent results anyway for a residential address, to make sure all the routers are at the same frequencies when I did separate recordings of my Google Doc of my speed tests. Let's move along. So I showed you the wireless wizard screen. What happens if I go to advanced home? Where do we start? Back here. We can show statistics of the internet port, which ports are up and down. We've been up for 3 days. Packets, collision. So yeah, definitely different than ASUS. different treatment of that. How about show statistics? What do we got in there? Show connection status, I mean. Okay, DHCP lease information, not a whole lot in there. Reboot from right there if we want to. You can leap right into the 5 gigahertz frequency or hit back arrow. I hit left mouse button, which is back arrow. Get back to this screen. So you've already seen wireless. What happens if we click on router information? What does that do? Nothing. Internet port, that does do something. Okay. Do we require login? So for coax, cable, internet access, I do not. It's dynamic. In this case, you'll see a funky IP. That's because I'm behind another router, right? You would typically get a public IP showing there. It's because I have 3 routers tested at once. Let's just see what that test button does. Oh, okay. I guess it's breaking my WAN connection and reestablishing it. I don't know. No, I didn't say DHCP release renew, so I'm not sure what it's doing. It's taking a while. And it bumped my internet, which is interesting. The router itself has stopped responding to ping, and being able to pass through to Google stopped too. So that was a disruptive test, something to be aware of on the Netgear. Whatever that test button does, it bumps your internet in your home. Good to be aware of. I'm kind of regretting doing that because it's taking awfully long. Strange, no test results. That was a little weird. Automatic language, that's interesting. Okay, so in advanced, home setup wizard. Well, that's going to be like when you first connect. WPS, so if you want to add a WPS client, you can push a button. Okay. Back to setup. Internet, you saw. Wireless, you saw and got kind of familiar with. WAN, I don't think you've seen yet. There you go. DMZ, denial of service. NAT filtering, all kinds of stuff. All right. Let's move to LAN setup. You can see I moved it to the 2 subnet one, left everything else alone. And you can rename the device whatever you'd like there. QoS setup. Okay, let's see. WMM is on by default. QoS is off by default, typical. And upstream and downstream are both off. Guest network. Here's your settings. Let's move on to USB storage. I don't have any USB devices attached at the moment. Printer. Ways to get to shares from the internet if you wanted to port 4043 access. And FTP. TiVo support. Interesting. Gotta think about what that might do. I have not read up on that. Okay, security, parental controls, launches external site. Okay, we can tell a particular machine or MAC address that no, it's off the network. And we can schedule when it's off the network. We can do email alerting of logs or when someone attempts to block site. Okay, that's cool. Quite a rich user interface. There's a lot in here that we still haven't seen. How about logs? Okay, again, like the ASUS, we got some logs. You can see stuff. Attached devices. I should maximize this. So until the time comes where I think I'm going to interrupt connection, I should have just left them maximized. Now I no longer need to scroll up and down to show you everything. We can back up our config and restore it to a file. Change our password, do a recovery password, do a router upgrade, check the internet for any available new firmware. Nothing available. And finally, advanced. Oh my goodness, that many more pages. You're also getting some sense of the snappiness of the user interface, perhaps compared to your older router. It's not bad. Access point mode. Repeating functions. Okay, it's definitely getting into the fancier territory. Port forwarding, that's pretty darn common to be configuring. Dynamic DNS, awesome. Log it into something. I just want to see the list here. Okay, dyingdns.org. Not a very big list. Just point that out. Just saying. Other devices have a longer list from what I remember. VPN service, cool. That would be feature parity with ASUS, perhaps. Haven't tested that. Static routes, if you need to add them. Remote management, if you want to turn that on. It looks like it gives an unusual port by default. That's good. Universal plug and play, I always turn that off. But it's got it. IPv6. Traffic meter. So if we want to watch over our internet use for a period of time, this is where we would set it. Not so much for the pretty graphs of the ASUS, but good for bandwidth caps or having to keep an eye close on your bandwidth. Looks like you could probably bookmark that URL. I don't know, let's see. What is that URL? Traffic meter. Hit enter. Yeah, you could bookmark that URL. All right. USB settings. Yep, I got nothing hooked up to USB. All right. Cancel. Hitting enter traffic meter was weird. I lost the bar on the left, so it was kind of a bad idea. So we're back at logged in as IP right now. It's looking more normal. All right, what did I say we were going to do? I said we were going to go to DHCP. So I probably want to go to Advanced tab, maybe Administration. Wrong. How about Setup LAN? And change the beginning of the DHCP reservations. So click Apply after resizing the window so we can see the effect of clicking Apply immediately. No confirmation saying you sure you want to do this. It's going to bump the internet, but it has definitely bumped the internet. Can't ping the router itself because it seems to be rebooting. And can't ping Google. Suppose if we were looking at a second hand or replaying this video, I could tell exactly how many seconds it goes down. But my feeling is that this is a bit longer when compared to the ASUS. Okay, we're back in action. So that ends the Netgear test. Let's move along and enable the Linksys. Look at the bottom right. Wait for it. Exclamation goes away right around the time that this thing says internet. Exactly at that time. Nice. Okay, we're ready to bring Chrome back up. Ready to full screen it. And now just log into the Linksys. Admin. We're in. Very different treatment of the UI. Looks more like some sort of cloud offering, I would say, rather than a local interface. Fairly clean graphics and all that. Okay, we can edit the name right there in the upper right. Let's start way at the top. What is App Center? Okay, so this is where you do the cloud features, I suppose, and don't administer it locally. Not sure. For me, my testing was largely about local stuff first, seeing if I was happy with the speed of Wi-Fi at the fringes of my house. That was my primary driver. But, well, maybe even more important for me is not rebooting during the day when I'm using this device and changing the device and admitting the device. Okay, so I've clicked on Device List, and you can see a couple of devices. The laptop that is fed a DHCP IP to, and the Linksys router itself. Little information screen tells us MAC address of it. It's kind of cool. If we want to add a device, I guess we can tell it we want to add an Xbox or something. Name it. Okay, so you can keep organized and keep all your devices showing up. Can I delete something? Oh, that was, okay. Any device that attached at any point during testing, it looks like. All right, the iPhone is showing offline right now. I don't know if that's a real-time display, if it refreshes often. Probably find out. Let's go ahead and connect my iPhone to it. We'll see what happens. I never did connect a Wi-Fi device to the Netgear while I was showing that video, but I don't think it had any kind of real-time graph, so I don't think we missed anything at all. Okay. Looks like one of my tests, I may have disabled Wi-Fi wireless. Let's take a look at that. Well, we'll get there. So device lists, we just had a good look at parental controls, guest access, media prioritization. So a lot of important things available on kind of a tabbed, I guess you could say, app-like interface. Oh, this is different. Dragging and dropping? What's the point of moving these around? Okay, I guess we can prioritize. I'll be using that one. We're trying it. Drag and drop devices to prioritize. So drag them up here and decide who's on top. So if you despise GUIs, you probably won't like this much, especially if you're sort of let's say a command line person. So you got to drag. There you go. All right. What's inside there? Picking your bandwidth. No idea what no acknowledgement means. There's no help screen. I'll have to deal with that later. Let's cancel and move out of there. So what I did was I kind of jumped ahead by clicking these tiles. Let's just go with moving down the list on the left. Guest access. Wireless disabled. So that would explain why my phone couldn't find it. We'll fix that in a moment. Parental controls. Do we want them, and then for which devices? It's a pretty friendly UI, I'd say. Media prioritization. We saw that already. Speed test. All right, all this appears to be doing is, oh, there it is. Yeah, it seems to be doing a speed test. All it is running against the speed test server, not from the router, but from the browser, the attached machine. So that's not particularly exciting. You can visit speedtest.net yourself. All right. One thing got my attention. How on earth could it do show history? How does it know your username and password? I don't know. Okay, let's move along to USB devices. This is how you configure it, but there's no device, so you can't get in to configure it without a device shoved in there. Let's move to connectivity. Let's check for firmware updates, just like we did with the other ones. It was rather fast. Port lights, we want to make it dim at night, we can do that. The ASUS has a button, a physical button, where you can turn off all dim LEDs in the front and a brighter base glowing ASUS logo at the bottom. This device, you can just turn off the port lights on the back. I don't know if it disables the one LED on the top that says Linksys, just not sure. Let's move along to internet settings. Okay. Local network, this is where we're going to change our DHCP server. Advanced routing, HTTPS access remotely, turn off UMP, that stuff I'll be doing. Cancel, because I didn't change anything. What's in troubleshooting? Okay. It's showing status of my machines. Now let's ping in the router itself. That probably doesn't make a whole lot of sense. This makes a little more sense. Let's see what it does. Okay. Again, a little bit like lifting the hood up and seeing command line, right? I would say. It'll do a trace route, a reboot. Back up and restore the config, of course. Restore previous firmware. So rollback if something goes wrong. That is intriguing. Release and renew the WAN port and go back to factory defaults. If we want to enable logging, let's see if that's decent. Ooh. Okay, it gives me a warning that I might bump internet. But I find this strange. General failure showed earlier. So at some point we lost internet earlier when I wasn't. I can't explain why we lost internet there. If nothing else, I want to make sure I don't cut the bottom off again. All right, so if we have logging on, what does that do? Shows us stuff. There's no syslog or external syslog, so that's disappointing. Oh well, I don't remember seeing the word syslog in the other ones either. I don't know, is that a feature that just is gradually going away? Hoping no one notices. Syslogging was available 10 years ago in devices. All right, well, turning logging off. Looks like it lost one ping. So it's not a complete router reboot, but it's doing something. Also interesting, turning it back off didn't really give us a warning. I guess they figure losing one ping no one would notice. That's probably true. Most apps and everything be just fine with that. Okay, wireless. I had confessed I had turned that off at some point. I was doing some testing. Okay, it's warning us you could lose connectivity. Well, I guess on the Wi-Fi radio you lose connectivity, but let's see if the router itself goes down when you're enabling the wireless antennas. This is not something you'd normally be doing frequently at all. Okay, so the test we really want to do, okay, that worked. Just click device list. Okay, so now I can connect an iPhone to it. I was curious if this screen is like real time. Do I have to hit refresh or something, or does the iPhone just light up as soon as it connects? Okay, I just finished connecting the iPhone, so it is connected now. And I'm running a speed test on it, so it's abusing the network a little bit. So let's click OK, because nothing happened. Click it again. Does the iPhone show lit up? It does. And I can get information about it. Okay, cool. It's Wi-Fi. All right, what was I supposed to be showing you? Supposed to be showing you the LAN setup, DHCP. So let's change this to 101. Click OK. And it gives me a warning. Didn't give me a chance to bail on it. It just said it's applying changes. I haven't clicked OK yet, but I already did the changes. So it only lost one ping. So that's not a reboot, but the router itself did stop responding to ping twice, and Google lost 3 pings. So yeah, it was disruptive, but again, not the best test. How often are you going to change your DHCP range? Let's do something a little more practical. How about a DHCP reservation? Okay, I should probably be taking some notes. Make it a lot easier to blog about this later. DHCP reservation. Since we're on the Linksys, I'll go ahead and test that now. Connectivity, local area network, DHCP reservations. Okay, let's add one for my phone. Or we can manually add one, but we just want quick and easy. That's interesting. Oh, okay. Okay, doesn't like fancy characters or spaces apparently. So we made a DHCP reservation. Do we have any interruption in service? No. Well, wrong. One ping. And we do.
So 4 pings lost on the Google side is what I would say really counts. The part that's noticeable to family. 1 plus 4. So I'm going to write that down. 1 plus 4 plus for the Linksys. Reservations. What else do we want to try? Port forwarding is a pretty common task that I do. So DHCP reservations are one, port forwarding would be another. So I'm going to go ahead and set up a port forwarding, I guess. Sorry, I was in the right place, wasn't I? No, not so much. Where did they put port forwarding in this thing? Oh yeah, it was buried somewhere. Security, actually, I believe. There it is, apps and gaming, port forwarding, single port, port range triggering, and DDNS. Forgot to show you that earlier. Not a very big list there on the Linksys. Okay. Add a single port forward. Do I click save first or apply? Let's try that. Okay, nothing's going to happen. I can just keep adding more. And then when I'm done, I click apply. Let's see if port forwarding results in a loss of internet connection. So I clicked apply. It didn't really say much. And the user interface stayed up. If I click OK, any difference in behavior? Anything lost? No. Okay, so port forwarding worked. Okay, so that's done. The Linksys test is done. Time to head back. Guess we'll just go right to left this time. Get the Netgear back up. Things will move a little quicker now. Get near the end. Okay, that's back there. Head on over the Netgear, user interface. Password's been saved on Chrome for convenience. It's up to you if you feel it's a good idea. And I would say, to be fair, I should connect to that wireless connection too. I never did that, right? So let's go to the Netgear. Okay, I'm now attached to the Netgear. Hit refresh. My phone should show up. There it is. Nice. Okay, so if we go to Internet now, sorry, we're going to have to go to Advanced, I believe, to do port forwarding. Sure, FTP port 21, why not? And edit service, delete service. If you edit it, oh, that didn't work well. Select an item, okay. So back arrow, no big deal. Highlight the item, hit edit. How else would it know which one you want to edit, right? That makes sense. A little slow, now it came up. Change port numbers. So it looks like that's a bit of a range. So maybe that wasn't the best example, but. So let's delete FTP. Let's do something simpler, like HTTP, IP address 101. There we go. It's not a range, just one thing. All right, that's been added. And now what? I guess add custom service is kind of like the apply button, it would seem. Not at all. Cancel. All right, so how do we get this thing to commit? I guess we click, no, let's go. I don't know. Let's go to dynamic DNS and then click back again, see if it remembered what we just asked it to do. All right. I guess it took effect. And I wasn't really paying attention at the bottom. So let's try another one.
add a custom service. Can forward it to the same right there. Click apply. It added a row. Do we lose any pings? Apparently not. So port forwarding seems to be a win on the Netgear side. I did not interrupt my home's service, if indeed that's actually working. I just feel it's a little odd that it didn't really have an apply button for the first one that I did, but the custom one did. All right, how about port triggering? Okay. So port forwarding, port triggering all seems to be fine without interruptions in service at all. So for this one, the Netgear is also showing no loss. We already tested DHCP reservation change earlier. I'll have to go back to the video to remember exactly how many pings we lost there. So we're ready to move on and get back to the ASUS. Okay, back to Chrome, go to the ASUS, acting like I never left it. No password challenge, interesting. Okay, DHCP server, the UI sure is snappy, I'll say. All right, so now we want to do LAN DHCP reservations. Where are those? I don't, remember, hang on. So it's not firewall, like poking holes in firewall. It's not administration. It certainly is not going to be log. And tools, just kind of our tools. So let's work a little harder and maximize this window to find how we do port forwarding on this particular product. Interesting. No idea. Hardware accelerator, what's that? It's on by default. IPTV. Okay. Going back to the main screen. So now I got to figure out how do we add port forwarding in games and so forth. Okay. Hover my mouse over it. And look at that. It shows the manufacturer of the MAC address. In this case, ActionStar, the company that made the chipset that's on this ASUS apparently. So if I connect my phone to it and hit refresh, we should see Apple. It's just looking at the MAC address, right? Okay. Well, it's time for me to dig in. I'm sorry, I'm tired. It's been a long day. I'm thinking, what's the best way to stumble my way through it? I don't want to stop the clock now. I just left the clock running this whole video. I've shown you a lot of stuff, and it took a while, I admit. Well, I'm just looking at the time. Sorry about that. Okay, there's QoS. Reminds me, QoS is another test I want to do. So after we finish this forwarding test, I'm going to want to test QoS and see if that interrupts things, because I definitely tune that for VoIP calls or gaming or whatever, and I wouldn't want that to bump my internet in my house either. But back to what we're trying to do. Port forwarding. Where is it? Okay, I'm just going to kind of go to town on options now and just dig around until I find it. So the server's there. Wait a minute. Manual assignment, DHCP, no. Route, no. We looked at that earlier. Definitely not it. Wideband WAN, I don't know. Oh, there it is. It's on the WAN. Okay. So port forwarding. Yeah, I guess I should remember that. I saw that earlier. Enable port forwarding. Famous list. Okay. HTTP, port 81, sure. It's interesting. What's it doing? Basic config. Okay, so we've added a row to the table. We click apply. And oops, forgot to resize that. Did we lose internet? Yes, we did. Google went down. What's weird is the router itself responded to ping longer, but it affected Google immediately. That was weird. Okay, so the ASUS port forwarding definitely requires a reboot. And we're losing a lot of pings. So that's not so ideal. $14 pings on the right and counting. 15 pings. 15 pings gone. Okay, so port forwarding is not something the ASUS likes to do. I think that's fair to say. Okay. QoS next. We got the ASUS, we got the Netgear, we got the Linksys. Let's do it. I think we can close that tab and go back to here where we belong and find ourselves the QoS tab again. Actually, back in the main screen, was there something there about it? No. Traffic Manager is where it is. All right, so we'll make up some number. Let's see. We don't need to make it up. We've got numbers, right? So 74 down and 23 up. Okay, does this make it lose IP connectivity? Yes, it does. So for QoS, the ASUS is going down for how many pings? That's going to be my measurement. How big a nasty interruption it is for your family. Now remember, if you're doing some file download or you got a VPN tunnel to work or a VoIP phone call, you're toast. Losing 1 ping or 2 ping, you'll be fine, especially with Skype, you'll recover. But being down this long is annoying. And if you're gaming or something like that, yeah, you don't even want to lose 1 ping, really. Especially if it's competitive. Okay, what was that? 1, 2, looks like about 10. All right, down for 10 pings to turn on QoS. Let's get rid of, why on earth did it bring up Bing? Oh, my goodness. Okay. Disable. move over to the Netgear. I'm going to have to catalog this video or make chapter headers, right, to not drive people bonkers to finding stuff. All right, so we got the Netgear up, ready for user interface, and now we just need to find ourselves some QoS. Enable upstream QoS. Okay, should I turn everything on at once? I guess so. What was that number? 2974. Do we want rules? Okay, well, it's going to take a little more work to decide if all settings in QoS change or lose IP or not. I don't know. This didn't warn us. It just started, and it did affect our internet. So it didn't say anything like I'm about to bump you. That implies it won't be down very long, but yeah, 3 pings. No, 4 pings. Okay. So 4 pings for QoS enable. How about just changing a QoS rule? I don't know. Take a little more testing. Very long progress bar, a long procedure with not all that long a downtime. So until I did these ping tests, my gut feeling was misleading. I thought the internet might be down this whole time, but now I know better that it's not. So I'm glad I'm doing this. This is helpful for me, knowing what I've bought and how the products compare. Downstream QoS, streaming database auto update. Okay, I guess I want that. That's pretty interesting. So there's some database. I'm just going to take a wild guess and think that we're going to lose 4 pings again. And we're going to wait that same long time, like a minute or something, just to do this. Okay. That's actually weird on the right. So that's 10 gone. How about the previous one? Ah, that was 10 gone as well, not 4 on the Google side. That's the part that matters. So Netgear and ASUS are both tied at 10 lost when you make QoS changes. And the Netgear just really takes long to get the user interface back. All right. Back to rules. How about just creating a rule? Let's I guess edit MSN Messenger and move it to normal. Click apply. Scroll down. I guess we can manually add rules or just click apply again. And now it's making the change that we just asked it to. Okay, so adding a rule is one thing. And there was 0 downtime for adding a rule. So there you have it. I don't remember on the ASUS test, I think I was just adding a rule and it went down. Not entirely sure. Okay. QoS test completed on the Netgear. Time to move to the Linksys. It should be back. Media prioritization. Oh yeah, that very, very different user interface here. Okay, MSN Messenger. Okay. What are the settings though? So looks like it's doing it all in one shot. And I'm not sure where I got that number from, but did anything happen? Nope. So MSN Messenger rule just got made. So far the Linksys looks like 0 ping loss. But was that a fair test? I'm not so sure yet. Let's move this to a higher number. Did that work? Click OK. Click OK again here. No ping loss. All right, so fiddling with QoS looks pretty easy so far. Linksys, that's appealing because I've got a VoIP phone, and hopefully I'll get it right in the beginning, but in the coming weeks, I might not get it right away. So here, let's Vonage. Too bad they don't have in there, but let's go ahead and pick Vonage. Put that next in the list. StarCraft. Just kind of messing around here. What am I doing wrong? Okay. Having two Lenovo things is kind of weird. I don't understand that either. Drag and drop devices to prioritize. Yeah. Okay. What does this mean? Is it 3 device max? Is there a garbage bit I'm missing? Or I've made too many changes before clicking OK? Maybe that's it. So I've added StarCraft. I messed around, still no ping loss. Okay, well, that takes some getting used to for sure. Again, this is just QoS stuff, but with a rather GUI-heavy approach to handling it. But I did manage to get StarCraft up on my higher priority list, so that is something I will be doing for real on there. For a family member. All right, so I just had a nagging feeling I didn't quite finish because I didn't really give the ASUS a chance to look at its QoS a little deeper like I did on the others. So I'm going to wrap up this video with one last look at the ASUS and its handling of QoS to give it a fair shake. The QoS on and off, we know it bumped things. But what about just changing the number? Okay, 1 ping lost. So tweaking the number wasn't a big deal. All right, how about automatic mode? Interesting. User-defined rules. Okay, so let's do user-defined QoS rule. That doesn't make a lot of sense, but just want to make a change. Click apply. Okay, so we're just driving a little deeper in the QoS user interface of the ASUS to really see what it means. And we lost 1 ping again. All right, and What happened to the QoS toggle? It's only in automatic mode. What if we just turn it off and hit save? Okay, now we got the percentage bar. So this is going to be a bigger hit. So enabling and disabling QoS is not something we want to do. That's where the 10 seconds come in. But for a simple QoS tweak, we lost 1 ping. So only the Linksys did we lose 0 pings for any QoS action we did. In conclusion, for me in my house, the Linksys had a little better range at the distant corners of the house, and it also had better speed on my wired speed test, gigabit, when I was connected the way I will be connected, and that is cable modem straight to the Linksys. So for me, that's probably my keeper. But really, this video is meant for you to decide which of these WebUIs and capabilities and feature sets are most attractive to you and your needs in your home with your family. So that's a wrap. This video is done. I showed you all of the web user interface elements. I showed you firmware update checks, and then I showed you all the features, and then finally I compared DHCP range changes, port forwarding, and QoS changes, and who rebooted for what. Well, thank you for watching this very long video and for visiting tinkertry.com, where your comments and feedback are always greatly appreciated.